All right, I am not totally sold on my E's, especially this E. So I'm going to work on the E's just a little bit more, make them something I like, and then we'll be able to resave the EPS file, move it into, that's kind of nice, move it into Photoshop, into our poster file, and work on it from there. And I'm liking this a little bit more now. I can always use the smooth tool as well. Yeah, help widen that out. See, that's what I don't like about strokes, little things like that happen. You do want to be careful if you have an outline stroke on your text. For now, it's the best way for me to go until I finish this up, because I want a very even outline. Yeah, I like this better. And I'm old enough that when we did type design, we did it by hand. And had to do like photostats from paintings. And it is just, it's magical that you can just completely get a clean black and white separation with no issues in Illustrator. So I do appreciate these advancements a great deal. Because designers have always wanted clean text, and Illustrator is just the perfect tool for it. But especially when using amateur fonts, or ones found for free online, you often have to modify it quite a bit to get the text to be as clean as suits a professional piece of work. All right, so now I'm going to take my new E, I'm going to replace my old E. So that was the last thing that was bugging me. All right, looks like a friendlier Pac-Man. Okay, so now I'm going to save that as my text EPS to the desktop. All the default settings, that's fine. Now I go back to my Photoshop file, my poster, and I'm going to go to the desktop and bring that text EPS in just by dragging and dropping. And because I had it as a white fill, go about there with a black outline, it makes sense. So there it is. Even as a vector, I can mess with it. I can stretch it. I think I'm going to make it a little bit taller. So I want to kind of take up the same amount of space. Okay, now what do? Well, I'm going to save it because I've got one text element in. And I'm going to turn off my other layers. So it's just floating there. And I'm going to crop it so I'm not wasting a ton of space. And this will be the first thing I submit. File, save as. Assignment 8, black and white text as a PNG. This is just to upload to PhotoBucket. Okay. Then I go back before I cropped it, and I'm back to my poster design. And I can turn everything back on again. So it seems like a pretty good start. But now, if I look at what I was trying to match, you'll see that their outline is not so crisp. And that's the beauty of this. As a vector, I can give it what I call, or what it calls, an outer glow. And I can make that outer glow normal in its mode. And I can make its color something I steal from the Photoshop file, this dark blue. Maybe actually a little bit lighter. And I can then play with its size and its spread and its opacity. So on black, that doesn't show up all that well. So I'm going to turn off my black background so I can see it on gray. So I can keep messing with this outer glow. Give it a little bit of texture and noise, which I think would be a little nice. Take its size down a little bit to about there. Take its opacity up. Maybe play with its color. It's a little too purple for me. That's not too bad. Got to teach them all. So why did I do outer glow? Because I wanted a slight softness of the edge. I can also always add a stroke within Photoshop. And I can make it an inside stroke like I'm doing now. And I can pick the color from what I've already done. You can just do a lot of subtlety here. Maybe a little bit darker. And then I can play with the side of it, the size of it rather. And that softens my black outline. It's still nice and clean. You know, it's rendered up to this size. But it's rounder. And a little blue. So that looks pretty good. Then, of course, I could do a color overlay. Let's say I wanted it to be that kind of Pokemon yellow. Or if I wanted it to be the light green. The light green's nice. Or maybe I even want it to be a gradient. So many things you can do once you have that vector. In order to get that gradient to show through, I have to take my color overlay down a little bit. And my gradient overlay, I'm going to have, let's see, overlay against it. And be more horizontal. This gives it a little bit of variety that it didn't otherwise have. Okay, so now I've got a color solution. So I'm going to save my poster. And then I'm going to turn everything off just to put it up to PhotoBucket. And I'm going to crop around it just to save some memory. And save this. Just like I saved my black and white one, I'm going to save this as Carl Assignment 8 Full Color Text Design to the desktop as a PNG. And now all that is left is finishing the poster. So I go, before I cropped it, I turn everything on. And I figure out what else do I need to get it into a full poster. Well, I know I need the big type design. And the reason I didn't start with that is because I had already played with designing that when I first drew this character. So I had that, and then immediately I started doing all the steps I just showed you for the catchphrase. I'll turn that off. And the first thing I did was I found a font. I did it down here though. And I used that Pokemon font that I downloaded from Dafont. And I just typed it out, Nikomon. And then I spaced it out and put it on a curved path and made it blue. I'm using the solid one. And then I did a copy of that solid one, made it solid yellow, because the Pokemon doesn't have just a stroke of blue. It has kind of a drop shadow of solid color that's directional. Okay, and then I added a stroke of blue on the outside of the letters, the yellow letters, so that I have the drop shadow of the dark blue, the stroke of the lighter blue. I started modifying the O's a little bit. And then, once I had all that, I merged them all together into their own layer group. But now you see the spacing isn't right. And now I have to play with that. And I came up with this. So, this is a finished kind of title as a vector. So how do I get it as a vector? Well, I turn off everything else that's showing. And I save this as an EPS. So I'll call this my flag text, because a flag is the thing that goes on everything. Like Pokemon will be on its cards, on its books, on its TV shows. Save that to the desktop as its own EPS. So there's the catchphrase or the tagline. This is the flag, the logo type flag. Okay, now I go back to my Photoshop file and I bring that EPS, drag and drop it on so it comes in as a smart layer, and then place it. There we go. And that's fully colored in Illustrator. But now I might want to take all of these move them down on the background a little bit. I can hold down Shift if I want to keep it centered for my poster design. And now I can just play with the size. So its size is pretty good. Maybe I want to make it bigger. Because it's a smart layer, it will rasterize up. And maybe take the tagline here, shrink that down a little bit, just a bit. Yeah, I get a nice kind of triangular composition at the top. See, that's about 2 inches from the side where that end starts, and that's about, it's about an inch, another inch, yeah, about 2 inches from the side there. Okay, now you can even, in new versions of Photoshop like this one, you can even, as a smart layer, skew it a little bit, and so I might skew it just a tiny bit this way, just to kind of line up a little bit better. There we go. All right, so now I've got my text solution. And this is how